Wario Land 2, man. Talk about trading up. My love for Wario resulted in me finally making a video, and due to the fact that I'm kind of a slut for chronology, I began with his first game as a protagonist. In all honesty though, the first Wario Land is quite literally under the shadow of the Mario Land series. As soon as the devs got to the second game, they were like, fuck it, let's make a Wario game. Yahoo! A mission-based structure, branching paths that lead to different endings, environment-based transformations instead of power-ups, not even a health system, and a completely different feeling character. This is where the series really starts. With that being said, it's time to get going. If you want any sort of historical info on Wario's origins or stuff along those lines, check out the first half of my first video. Should be there. Alright, let's start the game. We start off with some actual story this time around. We see the previous game's enemies, the Black Sugar Gang, breaking into Wario's castle. They wreck up the place, steal his shit, and even leave the faucet running, the degenerates.
Remember, we're the Wet Bandits. Wet Bandits.
As soon as the cutscene ends, we are greeted by a sleeping Wario, who has slept through both this pirate-themed home invasion and his giant alarm clock. As any sane person would do, you start jumping around, pressing buttons to see what this fat bastard can do, right? First off, the jumping feels stiffer. You have less height and air control. The ground pound that was once locked to the bull pod is now a natural ability. Like most games with jumping in it, holding down the jump button lets you a little more air, but only slightly more, and that's because even though everything's like stiffer now, the jumping isn't the focus anymore. Wario himself can't even take damage. Like I said earlier, there's no health system. He says as much himself in the manual too, claiming he's immortal, and the game overs are a thing of the past. Anyway, while you're enjoying this newfound freedom from the very concept of death, you roam the castle halls and come across secret after secret. Learning the ropes of ramming and throwing enemies, eventually you get to the 4th level, introducing what would become Wario's main form of gaining abilities in the series, which are his environmental changes that alter his physical condition. First off, we have this flattened version of Wario that lets you walk under small gaps and float from side to side when falling off a ledge. Bubble Wario does what you would imagine, you know, get in the bubble, it pops if you touch a spiky thing. And, you know, there's like a shit ton more. Hot Wario, Ice Skating Wario, Puffy Wario, Tiny Wario, a variety of others. I don't need to explain them all, plus it's more fun if you discover them yourself. These are a really fun and unique way to change Wario's physical body to add flavor to the gameplay and levels without just becoming generic mushroom fire flower copycats. They're their own things, not just projectiles or damage insurance. Hell, speaking of insurance, transforming in itself isn't even always beneficial. Sometimes the levels are designed to have transformations hinder your progress. Since death isn't an option, the game punishes your lack of skill or tact with wasting your time rather than taking your life. You have to wait for a transformation to run out, reclimb a set of platforms, get bounced back to the beginning of an obstacle course, or even reset boss fights in their entirety. Even though it can be a little annoying at times, making Wario immortal was a good one. Losing coins, having to recollect everything after death in the first game, they're more annoying and boring than challenging. There's nothing to memorize or, you know, gain muscle memory for like in a traditional platformer in that first game, so it was just so boring. In this, you get an immediate chance to try and perfect your gameplay and really get to know the mechanics. It's just a great way, for a lack of a better word, to force players to reset rather than to literally reset them. There's little things that, you know, I'd rather not spoil all the way, but it's like, if you jump up in place and then immediately jump again without moving, you jump higher. It's little things like that that really add to your feeling of mastering the game, you know? Having to restart an obstacle course instead of monotonously having to like recollect every little thing, it's all in good fun, and like I said, just makes you feel like you're getting better on your own, rather than the game outright showing you how to do so. Also, on a completely random note, this game is really fucking charming. The cutscenes are a large source of that charm, but just the presentation alone, giving proper names to each level rather than a number, showing them on an old scrap of parchment rather than on a blank white screen, it's the little things in games that separate the good from the great. The game even bothers to show us that Wario has a soul, introducing for the first and last time the one thing Wario loves more than money. His pet hen. He stops his journey to recover all his stolen goods just to make sure she returns to her coop safely. That is just lovely. Oh, and also Wario can get fucking pissed drunk in this game. They tried to censor it when it came overseas. Like, I think it's like just like a little grape juice. He's just a little dizzy, guys. He's allergic to it. But anyway, all of his transformations ooze personality and fun, and his new sprite feels a lot more complete and unique than his old one. Most of the sprite work and environments are pretty good. I mean, look at this neat owl at the beginning of Chapter 3. Pretty nice, right? Though the one thing that's still lacking in terms of memorability and charm is the game's soundtrack. After having heard the blundering Game Boy fart music the entire first game, it got old way faster in this one. Although this time the music gets a lot more ear-rapey, just listen to the factory levels theme. Again, while there's the occasional upbeat track, none other than the end credits theme are worth mentioning. It's a bit disappointing considering just how good the music gets later on in the series, but that's obviously for another time. The levels these lackluster tunes play over, though, are not quite as forgettable. The level design is way more varied this time around, both in terms of its layout and its visuals and theming. Making your way through your standard grass and ice affair, then ending up on a train traversing across the train cars or through the train cars themselves. Trains, Underground Brother, and Subways even make an appearance. I don't know why I can't get off the train thing, I just really like them. And I even wrote in the notes, make sure to, like, mention the subway level. I don't know, I guess I really liked it at the time. And then you're suddenly climbing up a building as assholes throw bottles at you from windows that you can then climb into. Trek upstairs through an apartment complex, and by the time you're at the end of the level, you realize you have a goofy smile on your face from seeing all the things going on in this game. Even with the occasional Bennett Foddy Jump King flashbacks you could receive falling down multiple screens in this game, it's just really fun. Also, as for that multiple screens falling down thing, Wario's animation resets every time he lands on a new surface, and he falls back like 3 times, so every time you see Wario continue to fall back and down a long-ass level because of this, you start wishing there was a death mechanic in the game. And in addition, death also seemed like a fun alternative to having to restart these annoying-ass boss fights time after time, man. At the end of each chapter's a boss, you know. Some of them are just you losing over and over until you get the patterns down and execute it without messing up once. Like, literally not once, because you get reset at your first hit. Though there are boss fights that are really weird and fun. I mean, look at this! Wario plays basketball with the entire body of a boss. He turns him into a ball. He is insane. Though for the most part, including the final boss, they all kind of suck. It's like they don't really want to give you a chance to really see if you can get them in one go. You kind of have to be learning every little move, and if you make a mistake, then it's time to reset. As for that final boss, the final fight with Captain Syrup absolutely blows. The level layout is just obnoxious, making you take hits until you realize what to do. It's just so dreadfully dull to climb up every single time with an enemy, not realizing holding up while holding things allows you to jump higher, and by the time you did that, you're already near mastering the fucking boss, so you're not gonna have to use it that many more times. The boss itself is just bad too, not just the level layout surrounding it, because too many things lift you out of the stage, and her second phase's weakness is way too cryptic. I'm just happy the game doesn't truly end after this annoying boss fight though, and has secret alternate routes depending on your actions, and a super secret finale you can only achieve after 100% completion. This is actually really cool for a Game Boy game, and just in general, I guess. To have this much variety in your post-game is really appreciated. I'd rather be able to choose whether or not I want to experience the entirety of a very long game rather than being forced to finish a bloated experience just to get it out of my life. After you beat the game once, you press continue upon your next booting of the game, and you can choose which level to start from, making both treasures and discovering new routes way easier. It's such a thoughtful feature that even some modern games refuse to implement. Good on you, Wario Land 2. Some of the ways to access alternate routes are pretty fun and weird too. In the very first level, if you accidentally take too long to move Wario awake when he's sleeping, it means Wario continues to sleep, foregoing the usual beginning level. Isn't that just cool? I mean, if you were just like accidentally not paying attention at the beginning of the game, you get started on a completely different route than the rest of the game intended. I just think that's really special and fun. As I mentioned, finding and trying for all the treasure in this game is much easier to do this time around, as well as grinding money. They even made the first level a great place for grinding if you're really struggling. Hunting down treasure and going at your own pace, searching every nook and cranny, That's what the game's really about, and it's just fun. It's a really good gameplay loop. It's a really good gameplay loop. Sure, the minigames to get said treasure are a bit hard, but if you can rack up some coin for the easy version and more hints, then you've got an even better shot. And it also makes money feel all the more valuable. Plus, I mean, look at his results animation. Isn't Wario a weirdly adorable guy? Anyway, what I mean by those minigames is that this time around they're a lot more memory-based rather than games of chance. Instead of finding out-of-the-way treasure rooms, you enter minigame doors, and must pay a fee to play the minigame for it. My advice would be to shell out the 100 coins for normal difficulty and stare at the center for the picture on the lock. If it's not in the center, your peripheral will give you a better chance. If you fail, you can always just try again, which is good thinking on the developer's part. At least kind thinking. The other minigame is scrambling a number and trying to guess what number it is based off of one tile. If you can't make your guess, you can pay to unlock more tiles till you can guess more comfortably. Winning this minigame at the end of each stage nets you a piece of what appears to be a puzzle. Once you collect them all, it's revealed to be a treasure map leading to the Black Sugar Gang's treasure, a time level in which you steal said treasure. You also need to have gotten all the endings and treasures to unlock this, so it's kind of the game's ultimate payoff. Oh my god. And what a payoff it is. This final level is as insane to look at as it is to beat. Apparently these goofy pirates led by some curvy pirate lady live in
the Meat Void, a place where mouths and eyes adorn walls of flesh, entrapping or possibly spawning the pirates from inside of its fleshy folds.
This level's as close as any 8-bit system could get to recreating the feeling of watching the thing. This took a good goddamn bit out of me to actually beat, but let me tell you, it's immensely satisfying, and even gives you the best ending. What a great reward for 100%, the best ending and knowledge you've mastered the game's mechanics to the point you could conquer its hardest level. It's probably my favorite kind of reward any platformer can give me for 100% completion. Something this decently challenging only shows how well the devs knew the game they were making, and reaffirms to me one last time that this game is pretty perfect. There's nothing I could want from a game like this that this title didn't happily give to me. For a sequel to improve this much is kind of insane. I can't honestly remember what 3 does any different, but if it's just give me more of this, I'd be hard-pressed for it to not just be as incredibly fun as this one. This is a game I'd recommend to anyone. It only gets hard when it has to. It's got a girthy length, but it's confident enough not to force you to experience said girth unless you really want to. Yeah, phrasing, but honestly, aside from the soundtrack, this game is pretty incredible. It makes me a bit sad this is a Game Boy game. It's less likely to receive as much love and attention as an older console game is. I mean, everyone needs to experience Yoshi's Cookie, but God forbid they get to play Wario Land 2 on Nintendo's shitty, like, what even is this? It's like a pay-to-play random game service? It's whatever. Anyway, here I am, trying to spread the word like a pushy cultist. I might cover Wario Land 3. Maybe I'll just play it, not talk about it. Videos are for fun. If anyone even likes these, I'll probably just make whatever I want about any old random topic, so if you're gonna subscribe, expect, like, more games, animation, movies. Well, that's kinda it, I guess. I don't really have that many hobbies. Thanks for watching. Hope you have a good night. Try to get some work done. Too many videos are bad for you.